Hey guys, welcome back to the Comic Book Lowdown. I'm Wellington, and I'm bringing you guys a review on the books that I got as a prize from Running with Comics contest. There's 4 books here, and this is gonna work the same way as I do my pool week videos. The one I least like to go first, and then the one that I most like I review last. There might be spoilers in here, maybe mild spoilers. Um, but yeah, let's just get started. And then I got some news at the end of this, so there's gonna be more to this video. Um, First off, Tank Girl: The Gifting, issue number 3. Not wasn't familiar with this character or the book at all before getting it. I looked up some stuff about it before reading, so I could kind of get an idea of what I'm going into. It's an Australian comic. It's and That's really all I got from what I looked up. So I was expecting the language, the way that the writers wrote this and how Australian people would talk. There's a bunch of cursing in it, which doesn't bother me at all. The one thing that did bother me is that I didn't know what was going on. There's 2 stories in here. The second story is very short, but the first story pretty much takes up the whole book, and it's a very big book. Or not very big, but it's a big comic. The first story is this long battle, or that's what I got from it. It's this long battle between Tank Girl, Booga, which is her boyfriend Kangaroo, or something like that, and then some other people that are on their side, and they're fighting against some people for I have no idea why they're fighting. But it's this big war against each other, and the writing in this it reminds me of something that I could have written when I was a lot younger, just with more curse words. It was simple writing. It was very simple. There was no story to it. It was just bring that tank over here, and then look out for this, and I'm out of bullets here, give me that gun there. And that's all it really was for that first story. And of course with a lot of cursing and a lot of, just all that. So I didn't get any story there, and the art is pretty crude. It reminds me of a less detailed Captain Underpants story. Like there's barely any backgrounds in some of these pages. So I mean, if you can get by with making a comic and there's no backgrounds in it, I can make one right now, and put it out. And I'd like to do that, but I think that it's best that there's backgrounds and scenery to this stuff, and everything's not just jumbled up in this huge thing. And so I really was not enjoying the first half of this, and I didn't know anything that was going on. I was like, well, maybe because I'm getting in issue 3, maybe there has been some things going on this whole time. And at the end of the story, and here's a spoiler, at the end of the first story, we find out that it was all a dream, and that's how it ends. And then, like, it was all a dream. The end. And I was like, oh my gosh. It took me more than a day to read that, because I was just like, I'm not enjoying this. I was flipping the page. I was looking at how many pages I had left. That first story I didn't like. That second story, though, the second story was more entertaining. Still, same kind of art. There was more scenery in the second story, and even though it wasn't much of a story, it was a small one, and I liked that a lot. What they did there was funny. It was entertaining. It was the same things that they did, just with more dialogue, and you could keep up more. So if you were gonna get this book, I I would say, you know, the second story is something I would recommend, but it's not nearly long enough to, you know, want to be like chasing this book for. But maybe that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people. It just didn't suit my taste. But I know a lot of other people have other tastes. So you know, if you want to try it out, try it out. Me personally, it wasn't my thing. The second story was more entertaining for me. The first one, not so much. Second book is just this Marvel Point One, issue one, and there's this the wraparound cover. I don't feel like taking it out. I did show the wraparound. Well, I might as well take it out so you guys can see if you didn't see it in the video where I show what I got. I did show it, but I'll show it again. Here's the full thing. This is really cool when there's no glare on it. And of course, this gives you just a bunch of previews to books that were to be coming out. There's a preview to Scarlet Spider in here, issue number 1. There's a preview to some Nova stuff. So, you know, there's some previews to things that haven't happened yet, and there's previews to things that in our time now have already happened. And there's even a preview to Age of Ultron issue number 1. So, and that just happened. And this was a 2011 book. So, you know, this does reach out pretty far. These previews. And what I liked about this, I thought this was just going to be a book of previews. But what I really liked about it was that they attached a small story to why they're showing all these previews. And it could have been just Marvel previews, but I really love. They did like a Watcher story where the Watchers kind of they every 3 years they collect data, and for 42 minutes they are not all seeing, and they don't see everything. And so these guys, they pretty much go into the Watcher's mind area, and they try to collect the data of what the Watcher's collecting, and that's why we get all these previews to things, and it's really cool what they did. And so after every preview, they'd put a little more story and a little more story, and then eventually it gets to the end, and it's you know, this big thing like big like moral thing between these two characters, and so it's really cool actually. And that's all I'll say about that, because then it's just previews to books. Next, we got Invincible Iron Man issue 500 by Matt Fraction, and this is actually the first Iron Man book I'm reading I've ever read. I didn't know what was going on at first, and the first artist I didn't very much like, because there's Peter Parker's in this book, and I didn't like how he was drawn. There's two artists actually. There's an artist that shows us in the present, and there's an artist that shows us in the far future, where this is like there's this whole war going on, and the book is pretty much about Tony Stark is regaining his memory of something, of some plans that he's got for this super weapon. He goes to Peter Parker because Peter was helping him build it, and he's like, well, what was the reason why I was going to do this? It's this whole thing where now he's like, well, what if somebody steals these plans, because I lost them? And it turns out these people, these teenagers, stole them. Teenagers that weren't smart, didn't have anything. They were just dedicated into, you know, stealing the plans for this weapon, and they try to build it, and it's, even though they weren't skilled, it turns out this big thing, and then Iron Man and Spider-Man end up stopping it. But what I really like is that they kind of fit an end story to this whole thing, an end story to Tony Stark. Like, you know how there's End of Days, and there's Hulk the end, and Fantastic Four the end, and Spider-Man Reign is kind of the end story to Spider-Man. So they kind of Fraction fit that in. And at first I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the point of this is. But then later when you're getting through the book, you're like, I see what's going on. I'm enjoying this now. I'm really enjoying it. And the real problem I had with the art in this was only in the futuristic scenes. Sometimes it was a lot grittier art. Sometimes the art could kind of be too you couldn't really see what was going on too much because there was just so much going on. That was one thing I didn't like, and the way that Tony Stark and Peter Parker were drawn, I didn't like. But the way that Iron Man and Spider-Man were drawn was fantastic. So just the people, I didn't like how the people were drawn in the present time, and then sometimes because of all the action, the future scenes were a little mixed up. But there's an end story fit into this, and it's a good one, really. And yeah, it was a good read. I wasn't expecting it would be, because Iron Man's not my character, but it turned out to be a good one. I was surprised, but I was happy. Final book, Green Arrow, issue number 13 by Kevin Smith and Phil Hester on art, and of course, the last book, so it was my favorite, and it was really good. The one thing that always tricks me up in this book, the whole book, it was tricking me up. The art looks very similar to an episode of like Batman the Animated Series, and you're like, okay, that's fine. But then there's so much like sex and then violence in this book that it's like, well, this is kind of weird because the art isn't fitting the context of the story, and I'm not used to seeing that. It was really good art, but it seemed too clean, too. It seemed like it appealed to kids, honestly, and that was not the case. It was very violent at some points, but it was a great story. I absolutely loved it, and it was also very sexual at the beginning. I mean, Black Canary is naked. I mean, you don't see much of anything, but she is naked, and so it's like I have no problem with that. It's just that the way that the art was tricking me up. This story's really cool. I don't really know how to explain it though, because it's kind of jumping in on some things that I don't understand. So I can't really go into too much detail. But we get Onomatopoeia is the villain that is coming up, and I heard the name Onomatopoeia, and he's the guy that whatever sounds are made, he then says them. So when he's gonna shoot somebody, for example, he'll say bang before he shoots them, and then the bang from the gun, or something gets hit, and the sound effect is thwack, and so he then says thwack, and as you see on the cover, he's breaking an arrow. I should show you the cover when I'm saying that. He's breaking an arrow, and he's saying snap. So he's a cool villain. He's a very cool concept, and he does something in this issue that is like, wow. And it happens to this character named Buckeye, who I'm pretty sure was not a big character, but it's like, wow, that actually happened. And then you're looking at the art, I'm like, whoa, this is tricking me up, like I've said before. So that was the best book that I read though, and I do want to get the rest of this run. This will probably, instead of doing Deathstroke first, I'll probably try to do Kevin Smith Green Arrow first, because there's a lot of issues of Deathstroke, and the ones I've seen at that comic book store that have a bunch of them, I feel like they're overpriced for Deathstroke books. I mean, they got some books that are $4, and they're not key issues or anything like that. I think, and it's Deathstroke. I mean, just because it's old doesn't mean that it needs to be, that expensive for a Deathstroke book that is not important at all. It was like a whatever issue. So yeah, I'm trying to see what I can do there. But yeah, so those were the books. I liked them for the most part. Tank Girl was but that second story was entertaining. And yeah, again, thanks to Scott for at least letting me read these books. I want them. I'm really glad to have them, and I had fun reading them for the most part. And yeah, it was a great contest and a great prize. And finally, the news. Before I forget, the news that I want to hit you guys up with, just really quick. I'm setting up my Google Plus account. I mean, of course, I already have it, but I'm finally really doing things on it. And so if you guys want to get into contact with me on there, that'd be better, because I don't really want to link my personal Facebook to things, because it kind of just gets mixed up with, I have a lot of friends on my personal Facebook, and I'm kind of wanting to designate my comic book community stuff to my Google Plus account, so I can do updates on that and talk with you guys on that as well, and everything's all in one spot. And I'll try to be uploading my videos onto there as well. So I'll probably start with this video, uploading it to there and to YouTube, of course. And I'll link my Google Plus channel in the description, so you guys, if you have Google Plus, add me. I'm trying to learn how to use it myself, honestly, but I'm getting used to it. And yeah, because I really can't find anybody on it. So you guys are just gonna have to add me, or at least link me and tell me how to find people on it. I'm not very computer savvy. But anyways, before this video gets too long, I'm Wellington signing off with a comic book lowdown, and I'll see you guys next time.